to be here. If you've read any of the bios, you will notice that we're very lacrosse-centric in this class. You know, 5 out of the 8 have heavy lacrosse backgrounds. And I take that because we were really good, but maybe it's because there just weren't that many other inductees that were worthy this year. So, I don't know. This wasn't part of my comments, but hearing Peter talk, I just wanted to touch on this a little bit real quick. As a freshman, we did win the national championship team. We won a national championship. We were a national championship team. And we had a fabulous defense anchored by Pete. And this is a true story. I was kind of a wise guy when I was a freshman. And one day I got carried away with myself, but it was against Hobart. And they cleared the ball down into their offensive end. And the guy that covered me was a gentleman named Jim Korn. And they were kind of relaxing. And I said, don't relax. The ball's coming right back. And sure enough, they went down the field, shot, Peter saved it, fast break down to us. And I don't know if we scored, but that was the kind of defense and kind of goalie that Pete was. But again, it was great to be part of that whole experience. So let me begin, and begin in 1964. My older brother was running track at Massapequa High School on Long Island. And a phys ed teacher by the name of Joe DeAnge, some of you might know that name, approached my brother and said, would you like to play lacrosse? And according to my brother, that's because he was super fast. I don't know about that, but he did come home with a lacrosse stick. First one I'd ever seen, a broken old Baccarat and raisin, which my brother and father quickly fiberglassed into a 50-pound war club that Bobby Ernst would be proud to have. And it was not love at first sight. Matter of fact, I refused to have catches with my brother unless he wore a baseball mitt, because I was really into baseball at that time. But probably in about 5th grade then, by junior high, I was kind of won over. And as I progressed into high school, I really dedicated myself. I did play soccer. I did quit that my senior year, because I'm footnote to that, to focus on lacrosse. But by my senior year, I started to get pretty good at this game, and I was very fortunate to play on some great Massapequa High School teams. As a matter of fact, my senior year, there were 2 Division III All-Americans on that, future Division III All-Americans, and 4 first-team Division I lacrosse All-Americans, 2 of which are in the Hall of Fame. So I'm just happy I even got on the field with those guys. But we had a great team, and because of that, I got a lot of visibility, and I started getting some invites to colleges, and Cortland was one of them. And I remember coming up here in February of '72, and there's 3 things specifically I remember about that trip. As I approached the field house, number 1, it's freezing cold. No surprise there. Snow was piled up over your head as you entered the field house. And as I entered the field house, I noticed Coach Emmer lording over the practice like some Norse god. Okay? And then juxtaposed to Coach Emmer was 5'6" Johnny Evans, full facial hair and hair down to his waist. And at the time, I had hair down to my shoulders. And Jack was the next big thing in lacrosse. So I said, this is the place for me. So I decided to commit, and somehow Coach Emmer got me in here. I'm eternally grateful for that, Jack. I don't know how you did that, but I did get in, and I waited anxiously to start in the fall. But then, late spring, early summer, I got a letter from Coach Emmer that he was leaving Cortland for the greener pastures of Washington and Lee University. And I was crushed. And then I had to make a decision, do I stay or do I go? And went home, talked to my dad, and got his advice. And he wasn't one of those dads, he's the greatest generation dad where you got yourself in this mess, now you figure out how to get out. But he did offer me this advice. He said, number 1, your commitment is really to the school. Coaches come and coaches go. Okay, point 1. The second point, he said, but how bad could this Winters guy be? Apparently he's pretty good because he's here tonight. He's here to stay with us. But so then Jack left, and we had a conundrum. We had 27-year-old first-time head coach Chuck Winters, and he had to make some tough decisions. And at the attack position, there's only 3 spots. There was me, a ripped 135-pound long-haired stud, a couple other highly talented freshmen, and 4 returning seniors. So in a moment of absolute coaching genius, and probably why he's here tonight, he started me. And he started me every game for 4 years. And I think he only benched me twice. I'm kind of over it now. And we had a tremendous run. You've heard some of the statistics. The national championship in 73, 75, semifinalists, quarterfinalists, great teams, great players, great games. One particular game I'd like to touch on is the 75 championship game with Hobart. I think it was 100-degree heat, not 90 degrees, down at CW Post College, and we won by 1 point. And a major reason we won that game is Chuck's use, and it's the first time I saw this, in a long stick midfield, a defensive midfield, to shut down their star player, a gentleman named Beaver Drafford. And he did shut down that star player. And interestingly enough, that player's name was Mac DeAnge. Mac DeAnge, son of Joe DeAnge, who gave my brother the lacrosse stick 10 years earlier. And the same Mac DeAnge that went on to coach an Army with Coach Emmer for a number of years. So I think Kevin Bacon is in here somewhere. It's amazing. But we had a great run, and it was a lot of fun, and I'll cherish those memories forever. But what was really amazing during that time, unbeknownst to me, I was getting a great education. I came here in an era of rock star teachers, and some of them were mentioned tonight. I'll mention a few more. And I was not the best student, folks. Dr. Ellis Johnson in history, Richard Rhodes in English, the whole science staff, Dr. Gustafson, and Dr. Cook, and Wallbauer, and Arden Zip, and Marcia Carlson in recreation, and Jack Schultmeyer in recreation, and they made learning fun. And that was important to me, because otherwise I probably wasn't going to go to class. But between their education, what I learned on the field, and what I learned downtown, sometimes that education was maybe equally as important. They had me extremely well prepared for the realities and the rigors of the work world I was about to enter. And I will spare you the details, the boring details actually of my career. We did some good things, we made some money, we had some fun, and it was a really good run. But I was extremely well prepared to enter the work world. And it was a large part because of the education I got here in Cortland. But the couple of things I will mention is we had to move quite a bit and lived in a couple of different states up and down the East Coast. Ultimately settled in Columbus, Ohio, and lived there for about 20 years. And I also had to travel extensively in the latter of my career quite a bit globally. But no matter where we lived or where I traveled, I never lost my love and affection for this university or college, Louise Connolly to correct me, or its lacrosse program, or my support for both. This school has been one of my life's great blessings. A blessing second only to my lovely wife, beautiful daughters, and totally awesome grandchildren. But it has been a tremendous blessing. And I was getting ready for this night, and just trying to understand, get my head around what drives such passion and loyalty for this school. And I know I share that with many in this audience, and it is hard to really articulate, get your head around. Certainly part of it's the education I spoke of, certainly the people that were here when you were here, the experiences that you shared with them. I think a lot of it has to do with the ethos of the person that comes here in the first place and ultimately stays here. And again, it's kind of a nebulous thing, and it's very hard to nail down, but I can demonstrate an example of how that manifests itself. And that's what's gone on the last few years in Lake Placid, New York. For those of you who don't know, Lake Placid hosts the biggest lacrosse tournament in the world. It's been going on for 30 years, 3 decades. Cortland alumni have played probably from the inception, but always on amalgamated teams. A couple of people from one team, from college, another from another college, but never one consolidated team. And about 2 years ago, Jerry Walsh, one of our alum on the 73 team, came up with this great idea, I'm not sure yet, to put together an all-Cortland team. And a lot of people say, that'll never happen. You guys haven't played in 40 years. You're never going to get 25, 30 guys to come up here and play. So a couple of us got on the phone, and in pretty short order, we had 30 guys committed to come up to Lake Placid, New York, and play some lacrosse. And again, many of them, myself included, hadn't played in over 40 years. And we went up, We acquitted ourselves well. We were 2-2 the first year. This past year, we were 3-1. We lost to the perennial champs, 7-5. We had them on the ropes, 5-1. We lost primarily because your truly got stuffed a few times at point blank range, but you got to be on the field to get stuffed. But I'm sure we'll be back again next year and give it a good try. On a moral victory note, we were clearly the best dressed team there because we had uniforms custom designed by Johnny Evans. And remember back in '72 when I went to the field house, the cross player with the hair down his waist? That Johnny Evans. And so 40 years later, it's just amazing, just absolutely beautiful, beautiful uniforms. But you have to ask yourself, what drives 60-plus-year-old men? And by the way, isn't 60-plus in lacrosse an oxymoron? They don't work together. But you know, what drives 60-plus-year-old men to come all the way up to Lake Placid, New York, risk life and limb to compete in lacrosse? It's crazy. But I can only answer it in one way, with one word: Cortland. I am super, super proud to be an alum. I am honored to be part of the lacrosse tradition at this school, and I am absolutely flattered by this recognition tonight. Thank you, everybody.